we don't care if you come on an electric scooter or if you come on a 1600cc BMW Cruiser.
And obviously the most visible part of the festival is the zone where bikers go wang, 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 on their bikes and blow their gaskets.
Don't do it, bro. Your bike is going to break. In Mumbai, they all wear a helmet because they get fined if they don't, but they don't strap it up.
It's the law. You have to wear a helmet, but it's not enforced and nobody cares. Bikes, aren't they all about emotion?
There's quite a few bike launches this year. So KTM's launching a whole range of bikes.
The big bikes.
Yeah, Hero's launching their Brixton range.
Oh, okay.
Which is going to be super cool.
Welcome to the Evo India podcast. This week, we are talking about India Bike Week. The first weekend of December is when India Bike Week hits Goa. That's where all the bikers from all across the country and across all segments of bikes ride down to Goa for this annual motorcycling festival, what is India's largest, biggest and most visible motorcycling festival. To talk about the India Bike Week, we have Martin da Costa, the person behind the brains behind India Bike Week, also founder CEO at 70mg, the agency who was behind putting the whole festival together. Martin, welcome to the Evo India podcast.
Sirish, thank you for having me here. Great to be here.
So Martin, let's rewind back to the start. How did the idea of India Bike Week start across?
Do you know, we had, so outside the office there was always a load of motorbikes, right? And we had all these young lads and girls, a couple of girls as well, who were just, they used to go off on weekends. And what am I talking about here? I'm talking about sort of 2010, 2005, that sort of thing. And they used to just head off on weekends and just go to, I remember some of them used to ride overnight to Goa on a Friday night and come back on a Sunday night and be in office on Monday morning. So the biking thing was always part of, we used to talk about it. We used to talk about, in office after work, we'd have a beer and we'd talk about, wouldn't it be great if we could do something where we could get together? And it was only ever talk, right? And then in 2012 or so, Anup Prakash, who I know you knew, Sirish.
Yes.
He was a great guy. He was the guy that came and set up Harley Davidson in India. And up till until Harley Davidson launched, there weren't really any big bikes. There was the Enfield 500.
And there were a few imports.
And
but
there were imports.
Harley was the first to actually bring in big bikes in the big term.
And they launched. He did a really good job. In fact, we launched Harley Davidson. 70 launched Harley Davidson. So we got quite close to them. And Anup and I were sitting in a bar in Delhi, having a cigar and a whiskey. It was all very American. As we were having a very male, very American, if you know what I mean. So we were having a whiskey and a cigar in a bar, and he says to me, have you guys thought about doing a bike festival? And I was like, yeah, we've been talking about it for 2 or 3 years now. And he goes, well, I'll support it. And I was like, all right, that sounds damn good. And actually Anup said, call it India Bike Week.
So it was Anup who coined the festival name.
It actually was. And I was like, that's a terrible name, Anup. It's not going to be a week. We can't afford to do a week. It'll be a couple of days in Goa, maybe. And he was like, no, because we'll all be riding down. It's going to take us 4 or 5 days to ride down. Then there's the 2-day festival, and it's a week, right? And I was like, okay, fine. I was like, actually kind of works. IBW, India Bike. It just kind of works. And so we did it, right? He gave us some money, not a huge amount of money, and we got we got overexcited, right? And we produced this really quite massive festival, and about 3,000 people showed up, which was probably 2,000 more than we thought were going to show up.
And 3,000 showed up as in they bought tickets to come down
in the first year. Which was amazing. I still think, it's something we talk about internally. There were probably 20,000 guys and girls who had big bikes in India at that point in 2013. Ducati hadn't launched, Triumph hadn't launched. No one had really launched big bikes apart from Harley. And obviously it was a very Harley-dominated event, that first India Bike Week, which irritated a lot of non-Harley people, which we fixed for the second year, in fairness, and which Anup very generously allowed us to bring in all the other manufacturers, without which India Bike Week would have failed, basically. And And it was just really surprising. I mean, it was just this brilliant energy, brilliant vibe. People were like, wow, this is amazing. I mean, it was 5 years too early.
Oh, why do you
frankly.
say that? So I came to the second India Bike Week
Right.
and I rode down with the Harley guys. And I remember there were tons of Harleys going on, especially between Pune and Goa.
Yeah.
There were tons of Harleys going down to Goa. I hadn't seen so many Harleys congregated at one place. And what really surprised me, because up until then, those who had big bikes would just use it occasionally, maybe do Pune Mahabaleshwar at the max.
Yeah.
But riding Pune Goa was not a done thing back then.
Yeah.
But here we saw, and I met Harley guys who had ridden down from Shimla. So people riding all the way down for this 2-day festival. And of course, like you said, spending a week out riding motorcycles. That was not a done thing. But I did see quite a few people who were indulging in that. And that obviously grew, right?
Yeah, it grew. I mean, it was... It sort of led the culture in a sense of getting on, throwing a leg over a bike and just going, right? Just going, just see how far you can get. And, guys, even in the first year, guys rode down from Delhi. It was a long way, man.
Yeah.
And, people were riding down from Nepal by the year 3. And obviously from Cochin and the far south of India. I mean, 5 years too early. I probably mean that, in terms of just scale and size and all that sort of stuff. But, it hit a chord, IBW, from year one, right? And we just loved doing it. I mean, it was, it wasn't about necessarily making money, we wanted to pay for the festival. Obviously, we didn't want to lose money, but we wanted to build this biking culture, biking community. One of the things we did, which I think set us apart from anyone else that was doing anything like that, was that my guys at the office were all members of riding clubs, and right from year one we were talking to the clubs and listen, what do you guys want to do? What do you want to see at a festival? And cut to this year, and I think there are 65 clubs. One of them is bringing 300 riders, right? So can you imagine one club with 300 riders, and they're coming from, I think, Bangalore or Kochi or somewhere. And so that sort of set us apart. That I mean, the community is a much overused word, isn't it? But that, the community of bikers in India had finally had somewhere where they could meet. And I think that was the point.
So all the bike manufacturers, they all were doing something on their own. Obviously, Royal Enfield had Rider Mania, which was this huge festival which was on for a couple of years before IBW started. But bringing all other manufacturers together in one festival, that couldn't have been easy.
No. No, manufacturers, well, you know this because we're in this kind of the same business, aren't we? Manufacturers have their own agendas. They have their own timing of what they want to do and how they want to do it. And obviously, in 2013, no manufacturer was making a bigger bike than a 250cc, I mean, apart from Enfield, who had their own festival. I mean, in terms of what's now Motorverse, so Enfield's festival, which happens always a couple of weeks before ours, we love it. In fact, I'm going there tomorrow. I love it. I love Motorverse. I love what they do there, and I love seeing 15, 20,000 Enfield guys in one place. And we've always seen them as part of the same culture. Like we're all trying to grow the biking culture in India. But as far as the other manufacturers, yes. So by year 3, year 4, suddenly you had Ducati and Triumph launching in the market. Suddenly you had Hero sniffing around. You had Bajaj, Pulsar started talking to us. But in fairness, in all honesty, the first 4 or 5 years, the Indian manufacturers were all like, who the hell are you guys? I mean, we're selling bikes. We're selling 1 million plus bikes a year, but not to any of you lot. I mean, we're selling them to people who are going to work every day or on their farms. And every year we'd go back to them, and every year we'd say, this is what we're doing this year. It's going to be great. And every year they'd be like, no. But, slowly...
Was there an inflection point?
There's recently been an inflection point, yeah. Yeah, I think it's sort of year 3, 4, with Ducati and with the other sort of international brands that started coming in. Obviously, they had to show their stuff. And then India Bike Week started being used by about 2016 for them to launch their bikes, right? Because it makes sense, right? You know, all the journalists are there, the audience is there, potential buyers are there, and they had a big, you know, you have a platform, so you launch a bike, you save money by doing it through us, and so that started happening, and then of course it's a bit like Auto Expo in Delhi, right? I mean, like if you've got stuff to show, you come to India Bike Week. If you don't have stuff to show, you don't come. Apart from a few brands, right? So Harley's always been there. They've always been a massive supporter of ours. Trying to think of others who've always been there. I mean, you know, actually not too many that have come every. Suzuki, actually, weirdly, I mean, in a small way, have always come. And then all the rest of them come, go. They come, go. You know, BMW comes for 3 years, then goes off and does his own festival. I'm sure they'll come back in the future. And we keep talking to them, and we were like, we're here. We're going to be here for the next 10 years. It's 25,000 bikers now. Maybe 40,000 in Goa that come down but don't necessarily come to the festival. So we're here. I mean, if you want to come. I mean, you know.
So when you set up India Bike Week, you obviously had like a template that you were following. What worked and what didn't work?
Well, what didn't work was having a one manufacturer dominate the scene. No, there was no template. We had to make it up.
Okay.
I mean, you know, there are motorbike festivals that happen in Germany, for example. There's a massive motorbike festival. There's Sturgis in America, but these, you know, they follow their own rhythms. They don't really work for India. Sturgis is just, you know, 250,000 bikers turn up and just ride through a town. I mean, that's not what we do. So we had to figure out what people wanted from the festival, and what they wanted was shade, great food, great booze, great music, and they wanted to see as many bikes as possible, and they wanted to meet each other. Right, that was they've done research on festival goers in the UK, right, and 60% of festival goers in the UK say they come to a festival not because of who's headlining or performing. 60% of them say the number one reason they come is because of the other people who are there, right? And that's the key thing, isn't it? So who comes to IBW, right? In the early years, it was people with big bikes, who tended to be sort of 35-year-old plus, because those are the guys that had the money. Today, it's completely different. It's boys and girls. It's, you know, and we've always said, we don't care if you come on an electric scooter or if you come on a 1600cc BMW Cruiser. I mean, it's just like we don't care. I mean, you're on two wheels. You're up for an adventure. You want to meet like-minded people. That's what IBW is about, right? I mean, that's why people come. I mean, I'm pretty convinced that's why a lot of them come. And then the second reason why they come is it's just a great excuse to ride your bike.
And to go to Goa.
Yeah.
Was it intentional to always have it in Goa? Apart from that 1 year that you did it in
the
Lonavala?
COVID year. Yeah, I mean, we it wasn't necessarily intentional. We're quite fluid about everything, really. You know, we're always open to new ideas and new ways of doing things. We did it in Goa the first year because it just seemed to make sense, right? It was a place where everyone loves going, middle of the country, more or less. And then, you know, I think by the third year, we were like, should we go somewhere else? And everyone was like, no. No. We all want to go to Goa. We were like, okay, we'll go to Goa. We love Goa.
Now, who was everyone? The bikers or the guys guys and girls in the office?
People like you, Sirish. People in the office for sure. All the bikers. All the manufacturers, right? All our sponsors, because they loved coming as well, right? Because they get 3 days off. They can stay in a nice hotel. They go to the beach. They come to the festival. But mainly the bikers, the bike clubs and all those guys. So this year it's the 11th time. It's the 11th IBW, so it's the 10th time we've come to Goa. The Lonavala one was very special. I mean, that was.
Yeah, we will talk about the COVID.
Because that was really special. Yeah. But you know, Goa's Goa. Yeah. Whether we keep doing it in Goa, that's $1 million question.
Okay. So
we may not.
What's in store for the 11th edition of the IBW?
We've taken. I mean, you know, IBW is. I mean, in a sense, has become a bit of a format, right? So we don't necessarily reinvent it hugely, because people like what they. You know, people who've come before kind of want to know what they expect to be there. So you'll have your 250 brands selling everything to do with merchandising and accessories and bike stuff. And you'll have your manufacturers, and you'll have your sponsor villages and all that stuff. You'll have your music stages, so Divine is performing, and there's some really good music lineup this year. But the difference, I think, a couple of years back, we went to Wheels and Waves in Biarritz.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of it.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's like this crazy festival. It's very low key. It's in the sense that there's this a festival zone, and then half an hour away from the festival zone, there are these sort of unbelievable racetracks in forests. So it would be like a sand dune forest, like a pine forest in sand dunes, and there'll be these nutcases dressed in sort of 1920s, 1930s motorbike gear on 1920s, 1930s Harley Davidsons and Indians and old vintage bikes, absolutely hammering it up and down these dunes, right, and racing each other. And their engines are exploding and they're covered in oil, and we were like, wow, this is awesome. And then they have other more modern racing, but it's all quite sort of guerrilla style. Like they'll go into an old factory and they'll set up a track, a bit like episodes of Top Gear where they do this, and they'll race their bikes around that track, and there'll be like 20,000 people there, watching this. And we were like, well, this is awesome, man. So we've taken that idea and put it into India Bike Week. So we've got 5 racetracks now.
Okay. And are they at different locations?
No, they're all inside. They're all inside or just outside.
Okay.
So, there's the hill climb.
Yeah.
Harley Davidson has invested a lot of time and energy into the Harley Davidson flat track, which is amazing. And then there's the mud rush, and then there's all sorts. And I think there's about 12.5 lakhs of prize money now. So we've slowly built that up, and the flat track is FMSCI approved, and so it's becoming more and more serious, and it's sold out. I mean, it was sold out months ago. So that nascent racing culture is starting to grow now, and I really like I mean, India Bike Week should be about bikes in motion.
Yeah,
right? It shouldn't just be about bikes on a stand.
Yeah.
You should be able to see them moving and hear them and feel them, and potentially ride them yourself. So if you're talking about the future of India Bike Week, that's a future that we're going to start exploring more and more and more.
It should be more experiential.
Yeah, experiential, and it's a place where you use your bike, right? And you learn to use your bike. And we've always done that. I mean, we've always had those lessons and safety and all that stuff. But we're going to now start sort of building that up. Especially if we can find a bigger venue, because frankly we run out of space.
Okay. Yeah, and you also have a parallel festival across the road.
Yeah. No, I mean, bless them. TVS. I forgot what it's called. What's it called?
MotoSoul.
Right, MotoSoul. Yeah, I mean, good luck to them.
Why didn't you integrate them into your festival?
Well, we've spoken to TVS for 13 years.
Okay.
And said, come to India Bike Week. And for 13 years, they've been like, that's a nice idea.
And you've never had TVS on board?
No, they've never come. And we've gone there year after year after year and presented to them, and this is what we're doing. No, and then they decided to do their festival right opposite ours on the same dates. I mean, it's fine. Let them. Good luck to them. If it works for them, great. I mean, but there does tend to be a sort of pattern with these things, with these own brand, especially bike festivals, even car festivals, frankly. They run and then they don't run because they for them it's all about ROI. For us, we don't really care about ROI. We care about what we're doing.
So you said Divine is going to be playing at IBW. What are the headline?
Oh, don't ask me about the music. I don't get involved in the music.
No, I'm not talking about the music. I'm talking about what other. So you talked about the flat track. What else is there for the bikers?
So it's the biggest shopping experience.
Okay.
Right. And when we started India Bike Week, we were like, shopping. Who cares about shopping? But it's a massive draw. People love it. Right? So it's like I said, 250 brands and stalls and so on. We've got this thing called the Ladakh tent. So, and every year we bring in these amazing speakers. And my mind's gone blank. I can't think of a single one. But so we've got people who've ridden around the world, and people, and they come in and they just give you the benefit of their expertise, and that regularly packs out because people, young riders who want to they want to ride their bike from here to London, right? How do you do it? Who do you talk to? And so we've got those people that come out and just give the benefit of their expertise. We've got the big jumps, the big massive bike jumps and all that stuff. We've got the Well of Death. It's the way I like to do festivals is that you should go to one of our festivals, or an India Bike Week or whatever, and you shouldn't be quite sure about what to expect as you go around the corner, right? It should always be, oh my God, this is here. Oh my God, this is there. One of the other, it's not really a draw for people, but it's the heart of the festival, like the heart and soul of the festival is the club village.
Okay.
Is and so each club gets its own area, gets its own store, and then they have their own bars and restaurants in the centre, and that's the sort of beating heart of India Bike Week.
So all 65 clubs get their own kind of zone?
Yeah, they get their own zone, and they're all meeting each other. So it's like thousands of guys and girls. There are women bike clubs. There are Enfield, lots of Enfield bike clubs come as well. Pulsar, small guys on small commuter bikes that have banded together to create a club. I love it. I mean, for me, that's my favourite bit of the festival, because it's like I say, that's where the energy is.
And obviously, the most visible part of the festival is the zone where bikers go wang, 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 on their bikes and blow their gaskets.
Yeah, we've been trying to do something about that for 11 years, man. And every year, a journalist will go on Instagram or whatever and say, oh, dude, India Bike Week, I hate it. So we've been trying to fix that for years. But with that Vagator venue, because it's not big enough. I mean, I think we're using 15 acres now. We need about 30, 40 acres. I mean, we need about an area triple the size than we've got in Vagator to really do justice to India Bike Week. So you can hear it, right? There's it's not a small space by any means, but it's small enough that you can hear it. And we try and keep those bikes away, frankly, because we don't get it either. Right? I mean, why would you want to wreck your engine on a 25 lakh speed bike? Like amazing bike, but guys do it. And the other thing that is, and we were talking about this last night, weren't we? Is that they start, right? One guy starts, and he's immediately surrounded by 60 people on their phones, filming it. Yep. And we don't get that either. Yeah. But it is what it is, right? Yeah. So if people want to do it, we should have a space for them, and then the rest of us enjoy ourselves. But it's also pretty random, right? I mean, because you don't quite know who's going to do it. Like, there are these local sort of Goan boys from Anjuna or whatever, and they come on these little two-strokes and they start doing it. Yeah. Right? And that's really annoying, that sound. I mean, it's a two-stroke going nuts. But then you'll be looking, and there'll be a guy on a literally 28 lakh BMW or Harley, and then he'll start doing it, and he's like a cardiac surgeon from Delhi or something, and I'll know him, and I'll go like, Vikram, why are you doing this? And he'll be like, I don't know, I don't know, I'm just doing it, yeah. I'll be like, don't do it, bro. Your bike is going to break. Anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, but all of these activities and all of this that happens, that does get a lot of eyeballs. It's a social media event. It's all across. If you're following bikes, it'll be across your handle for that entire week. And everybody does have a good time, especially those who ride down and spend 2 more days in Goa and then ride back. That entire week in Goa is like full of bikes.
It is. I mean, it's nuts.
Yeah.
It is nuts because, like I said, at the top of this, we reckon about 30 to 40. I mean, there's no way of counting it, but it feels like about 30 to 40,000 bikes come to Goa.
Yeah, and not all of them come to India Bike Week.
No, we'll hit about 22,000, I think, this year, which is great. I mean, we started at 3, it's 22,000. So, which means about 20,000 are not. They're not coming to the festival for whatever reason. I mean, because they want to chill by the beach, or because they don't want to spend that couple of thousand rupees on a ticket, or whatever it is, right? But they'll come at some point, right? We're not too bothered. We are who we are. They'll come at some point just out of curiosity, I guess.
As a biking festival, you also need to promote safety. What are you doing on that front? I remember in the initial years, you would have guys riding in without helmets, and I think now you've addressed that.
Yeah.
What do you focus on in terms of safety?
Or the gear. I mean, it has to be about the gear, doesn't it? So the helmets are you have to have a helmet to get into Indian bike. You're not allowed to. There's a limit to what we can do, right? We're not the police. We're not the government. Every year we have, we publish lectures and we promote sessions around the country. Our Chai and Pakoda rides. So I don't know how much you know about them, but we do about 20 cities a year.
Yeah, talk to us about the Chai Pakoda.
Right. So I mean, that's we started that really small back in the day, and we did about 4 or 5 cities, and it'd be about 200-300 riders, and we'd meet on a Sunday morning about 7 a.m. And we'd just ride out to a Chai Pakoda place, right, and have Chai Pakoda, and then we'd come back, and it was great, and it was just a way of connecting with the sort of hardcore in every city. Yeah, cut to now, and it's 20 cities. It's oversubscribed by thousands in every city. So, we can't control more than 800 to 1,000 riders at any one point. But like in a city like Bhopal, we'll have 3,000 bikers turn up. And again, boys and girls, not just boys, riders of all shapes and sizes, bikes of all shapes and sizes.
And who runs these? The
We
local
do.
bike clubs?
Yeah, the local bike clubs work with us, and then 3 or 4 of my guys will go out and just run it and marshal it. And it's all gone really well. I mean, there's never been a problem so far, touch wood. Yeah, touch wood.
Yeah.
There we go. And there we are, that's where we do the safety stuff. I mean, that's where we say, listen, it's all the gear all the time, and you don't compromise on that. It's the helmet every time, it's the gloves, it's the jacket every time. And obviously you can't ride with us unless you've got all that stuff. I mean, here in Pune, I'm quite surprised.
Yeah, it's shocking.
I mean,
There's no other way to describe it.
Yeah.
It's shocking that
it's
it's a rule, right? It's the law. You have to wear a helmet, but it's not enforced, and nobody cares.
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's either people don't. I don't think people don't know. It's just that there's an attitude that nothing's going to happen to me.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just
Fatalistic,
ridiculous.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
I mean, I've been in bike crashes.
Yeah,
I mean,
all of us have.
yeah.
Like all of us who ride bikes, all of us have
Yeah.
been. And it's the helmet that's always saved you.
It's the helmet that always saves
I'm
you.
sitting here because I had a helmet when
Yeah.
I had my bike crash.
Yeah.
But it's just ridiculous. And you don't want to learn from your own mistakes, right?
Yeah.
You learn from others' mistakes. You don't repeat the same mistakes that others have done.
No.
So it's just shocking,
It's weird.
the attitude towards it.
I mean, it's like, in Mumbai, they all wear a helmet because they get fined if they don't, but they don't strap it up.
Yeah, but even
So
now,
it's-
if you see from what it was in Bombay to what it is now,
Yeah.
now you have this rampant without helmets riding. You live in Bandra.
Yeah.
Look at the way people jump lights in Bandra.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And look at it 5 years ago. This would never have happened in Bombay.
Yeah.
It's just down to enforcement.
I mean, it's a bit like cyclists in London. They're all jumping lights.
Yeah, but look at
People on
our
2 wheels.
population and our size of roads, and when you have this nonsense, it's just... Anyway, this is something that we can talk about for an hour.
Yeah.
We talked about India Bike Week.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's for bikes, for two-wheelers.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the next festival that you're working on, one last topic.
Yeah.
Electric bikes.
Right.
You mentioned briefly about electrics. With electrics coming, now electrics are going to come. Everybody's going to get into it. More and more people are going to have electric bikes. What happens to the festival in the era of electric scooters, motorcycles?
Nothing changes, I don't think. I mean, it's going to be... You're not going to go from 100% non-electric to 100% electric over the course of the next 10, 15 years. I mean, so we've got 10, 15 years of a sort of hybrid electric, combustion engine bike scene. So you're always going to have bikes that are not electric being ridden down and being displayed and being sold. But then you'll have electric, right? So when that battery swapping infrastructure comes into place in India, which let's all hope it does come soon, you'll have some amazing bikes on it. I mean, the thing about an electric bike is that you can go insane on design.
Yeah.
You can just completely change the design of it. You can change the weight. You can change. And I quite like the idea. I mean, this is something we were talking about last night, wasn't it? I ride a big 1200cc bike in Italy where I live some of the time, and a big 900cc bike here in Mumbai. And they are loud, right? And I've often thought it would actually be quite nice to have a quiet bike. I don't know about the whine. I'm sure that we can do something about the whine. But I'd quite like the idea of a quiet bike. You know, I'd be quite happy to ride
bikes,
it.
aren't they all about emotion? And emotion, yeah, obviously there's the performance, the turn of speed, but isn't the sound a big part of that emotion of riding a motorcycle?
Okay, here's where I'm going to get a little philosophical,
Mm.
right? No, for me it's not. For me, riding a motorbike is the ultimate stress buster, right? And it's okay. I'm going to get a little bit technical here, or a little bit complex. So our brain is made up of a sort of evolutionary process, right? So at the center of it is the cortex, which is part of what we were when we were reptiles, right? When we were amphibious reptiles, and it's just a hunt, flee, eat,
Yeah.
sort of thing, right? I mean, it's a mate sort of thing, right?
Procreate.
Procreate. It's just there, right? And it's there in the center of our brain. And then there's the rest of our mammalian brain and our subconscious and all the rest of it. And, you know, this incredibly complex part of our mind. Now, when you go on a ride and you're on a good road, and you're going at a reasonable speed, and you've been going for about half an hour, 40 minutes, you suddenly find that an hour's gone by, and this has happened to me a lot, and I don't know what did I do in that hour? What just happened, right? It's a meditative state. It's the same state you get into if you do the Deepak Chopra, you know, we're in Pune, right? If you do the sort of the meditation, where you suddenly look back on and an hour has passed and you don't know what happened. Now, what has actually happened is that your brain has switched off and you're entirely in the moment. You're not in the past. You're not worrying about the future. You're not regretting what happened in the past. You're just in the moment. You're still safe, though, because your reptile brain doesn't switch off. You know, those little darting eyes, that little flicking tongue of when you were a snake or whatever. That's monitoring the road. That's looking for dangers. That's out there. That's just... And you'll notice that, like, if something happens in front of you, you'll switch out in an instant, right? Like, in an instant, you'll switch and you'll be back on and you'll be like, okay, wow. Then you'll look back and say, shit, what happened? Oh, I was somewhere else for an hour. Now, for me, that's what biking is about. I mean, you know, and it's about being in the open air, and it's about adventure, and it's about travel, and it's about flexibility. When you can go places on a bike you can't go anywhere else. And I love that, right? I love that. And the sound, I mean, I'll wear earplugs on a long ride because it reduces it. You arrive at your destination calmer.
Yeah,
right?
less fatigue.
Less fatigue.
Yeah.
So I don't mind. You know what I mean. So it's a counter argument. No, I mean, everyone loves the sound of a bike, right? I mean, well, everyone who's on a bike does.
Yeah. And of course, then you won't have these guys going, "Wang, wang, wang, wang."
Right. Well, they'll try, and they'll just whine.
Yeah.
No, I like that, and I like the instant torque, and you know, and the speed will be great.
Yeah.
But I'll always have both.
Yeah. So India Bike Week, 6th, 7th of December.
6th, 7th December. Everyone's welcome.
6th in the afternoon, I think you...
It starts, I mean, we open the gates at 12. People start wandering at about 1, 2. It goes on until 10.
Yeah, and then you have the parade of bikers riding in...
All through Friday and Saturday, in fact.
Yeah.
There's quite a few bike launches this year. So KTM's launching a whole range of bikes.
The big bikes.
Yeah, Hero's launching their Brixton range.
Oh, okay.
Which is going to be super cool. We're actually hosting Harley Davidson's India Hog Rally. So the night before on the Thursday night. So that's going to be. We're really looking forward to that. And like I say, we've got, I think, some of the best food at any festival in India. So we've got again, sorry, my memory for names are so bad. But we've got these guys that come in and do this enormous barbecue setup, and it's unbelievably good. So, and then we've got the food trucks and all that stuff. Carlsberg's come in, and Jameson actually coming in for the 10th year now.
Okay.
The 10th year, so they're coming in with all the bars and all that stuff. And then there's just loads happening, right? It is fun.
Yeah, I look forward to being there.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to hosting you.
India Bike Week. And you're working on something else for the car world.
Oh, yeah.
Generation Speed.
Generation Speed. Yeah, so we've been doing India Bike Week for 11 years now. So what happened was COVID happened, right? And in 2020, when was it? March 2020, we all got locked down.
Yep.
And 2020 went by. Obviously, we had to cancel. Everything was cancelled. And then there was Delta and Omicron. I can't remember the exact name. And in about September, we were like, should we do it? I mean, it's illegal. You can't do it. We were like, let's do it. Let's just go for it and see what. I mean, if they cancel us, they cancel us. We'll lose a lot of money. But it's worth giving it a go, and we'll try and follow the COVID rules. We'll limit the numbers to sort of 2,500 people. And we took it to Ambi Valley, which actually links into what we're going to talk about next. I took it to that beautiful landing strip, the runway. And it was amazing, right? I mean, it was the only festival that happened in 2021.
Yeah, so that happened along with the drag races,
And
the Valley Run.
The Valley Run happened. So the Valley Run, so Rongom's the Rally Run, and us, we were the only public event, that festival that happened in the whole year. And about 3,000 riders turned up, and it was just this beautiful, beautiful thing. I mean, everyone was just so happy to be out and so happy to be riding again, so happy to be meeting each other. And we had all our usual India Bike Week stuff, the music, the food, and all that stuff. And it was a really magical experience. And that's what gave us this sort of love of and confidence in the idea of and the importance of festivals, right? The importance of shoulder-to-shoulder contact. We lived through that virtual nightmare, didn't we? I mean, I remember at 70, the company I run, we were doing virtual funerals for diamond dealers. I know. I mean, we made money from them because there was nothing else to make money from. But it was nuts, right? Virtual weddings, virtual funerals. And it was all awful, wasn't it? Virtual conferences for clients, and they were awful. And then suddenly we were all just there live, right, in person. It was amazing. Anyway, that was that. That was all Navla. And then for years before that, we'd been thinking about Auto Expo and what it gets wrong, right? And we'd been thinking about, so if we were to do a version of Auto Expo, having learned what we've learned from India Bike Week, what would we do? And we thought, well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? You want to see the best cars in India and bikes, and you want to see them basically racing each other or racing against the clock, somewhere beautiful, surrounded by loads of stuff to do, great food, great music, great infrastructure, toilets, and all that sort of stuff in a beautiful place, right? And we want to see a 1922 Mercedes convertible racing at full power, full on, and we want to see Aston Martin's latest or Lamborghini's latest, and we want to see the Cholet car, right? That little Fiat 500 from Cholet. We want to see if that can still race down a track, and can we get Amitabh in it to race it? And we started talking about it along those lines. And Generation Speed, India's motoring festival, was born. And we've been working on it for about 2 years now. We launched the idea of Generation Speed online just to build a community, really. And so we've been connecting with India's car four-wheeler community now, in the same way that we connected with the two-wheeler community for the last year or so, and it's unbelievable. I mean, it's so enormous. I mean, we thought bikes were quite a big business, but this motor racing car, sort of, the guys that soup up their cars, the
tuned cars,
the tuners, that whole community is so enormous, and it's so passionate. And these things run on passion, right? And so we're doing it.
So when is it happening?
So it's going to be the third weekend of. In fact, we're launching it this week. We're launching the fact that it's a festival, not just a website or an Instagram account. We're going to be launching Generation Speed. It's going to be in Ambi Valley in year one. We're going to shift it every year. Third weekend of February.
Okay.
Right. So let the Auto Expo get by, and then we'll do it on the third weekend of February. We have no idea what to expect. I mean, we know what we're going to do, right? We're going to make it. It's actually going to be. I shouldn't say really, but I mean, it's going to be posher. It's going to be a bit. It's a bit more upmarket, a bit more family oriented, obviously, than India Bike Week. The tagline, and there's no tagline for it, but what's been in our heads right from the start is that Generation Speed, the festival, should be the best place you can take your kids to on a weekend. Okay. And I forget this in Magica and all this nonsense. Generation Speed should just be this playground for fathers and sons and daughters and mothers, in fact, who love cars, love fun with cars, love design, all this sort of stuff. And of course, because we did the Cartier Travel with Style, the Concours, which was this enormously important international concours for years, we're connected right through that vintage scene. We're connected right through the motorsport scene because we've done a lot of work there. And so all those guys are coming, and we've curated 250 of the most amazing cars and bikes, mainly cars, in India, and some from international as well. Curated those cars in the sense we've chosen them and then asked the owners or the drivers, would you like to come to this and race your car? Most of them said yes. Now, will 20,000 people show up? Will 1,000? I mean, in any case, there's going to be 4,000 or 5,000 people there because of just the size of the community that we've invited. But will another? We have no idea. Right? It's a bit like doing India Bike Week in the first year. My guess is that it's something that we'll have to build up over the years.
So if I come there, I get to see 250 of the nicest cars in India.
Yeah.
I get to see them drive down the runway.
Yeah,
maybe
we're going to create chicanes and.
So I get to see them in action.
In action, driven by their actual owners.
Do I get to see some old Indian racing cars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it'll be old Indian. I mean, stuff from the. What do they call it? The Himalayan rally. Yeah. So some of those guys are coming. Some of the new stuff is coming. Some of the Formula E and all. I mean, we've spent. I've got a great team working on it. We spent a lot of time and energy putting it together, curating it. It's just going to be fun, right? It's going to be like 3 days of just brilliant fun. And the other thing we're trying to work out is, and it's an insurance issue, but we're trying to figure out a way in which you can actually come to Generation Speed and drive a Lamborghini or drive a Ferrari down a track.
So like an enthusiast can come.
Yeah, you'll have to pay, right? You have to pay something, but you'll have 15, 20 minutes with an instructor, and you'll be driving that Lambo down that track. I mean,
okay. So if you guys want to drive a Lamborghini,
well, no, we'll confirm. I mean, we're negotiating with insurance companies at the moment. It's not easy.
Yeah, well, on a runway, there's not that much to hit.
Well, yeah, but these are twitchy cars, aren't they? You're not used to it. Anyway. So that's one tiny thing of all the other stuff that's going to be happening. So there's a big 4x4 sort of trail. There's drifting, and then Romgom's bringing in the best cars to slam in a straight line down that track. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah,
it'll
awesome.
Be good.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
So first, looking forward to India Bike Week. Are you riding down?
I'm riding down, doing the festival, and then I'm 5 of my friends who are actually flying in from all over the world to come to India Bike Week, and then we're going to ride to Bangalore via the sort of Karnataka coast and stuff.
Awesome. So I look forward to seeing you there at India Bike Week. Have a safe event.
Thank you, Sirish.
Have a fun event. And obviously, Generation Speed. Maybe we'll do a podcast just before Generation Speed what to expect of the...
because by that stage, it'll all be out. It'll be all in the open, Generation Speed is going to be fun.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Both of them will be fun. This will be how we structure our year every year.
Yeah.
I was telling my guys, I want to be 90 years old with a walking stick, walking into both these festivals.
Riding in and driving into these festivals.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So all the best, Martin.
Thanks,
Thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thank you guys for watching and listening to the podcast. Hopefully we'll see you at the India Bike Week. Evo India has a stand at India Bike Week. The entire team is also going to be there. So if you are at India Bike Week, drop by. We'll be wearing Evo t-shirts, so I'm sure you won't miss us. And obviously, if you're riding down to India Bike Week, be safe, be sensible, and have a great time. Thank you again.